We will now begin the press conference by Foreign Minister Kamikawa. The floor is yours, Minister. From the 26th of April to the 5th of May, I will be visiting Madagascar, Côte d'Ivoire, Nigeria, France, and Sri Lanka and Nepal. With regard to Sub-Saharan Africa and Southwest Asia, 2 countries in Southwest Asia, this will be my first visit since assuming the post of Foreign Minister. With regard to Madagascar, ever since the country became independent in 1960, it's the first Foreign Minister's visit. With the 3 countries of Africa toward the TCAD slated for August, we'll be discussing strengthening of economic relations and connectivity and strengthening of cooperation with regard to rule of law, WPS, and global challenges. And we want to strengthen cooperation specifically in Madagascar, which is located at the key point of the sea lane of free and open Indo-Pacific and economic security, cooperation, support for Japanese businesses, and further approaches toward culture and diplomacy. We will strengthen bilateral relations. In the Francophone Africa, with regard to Côte d'Ivoire, the hub of this region, we will talk about strengthening economic relations, which is the driver of the economy of the region. And we will aim to back up economic and political stability in the Guinea Gulf coastal region. In Nigeria, which is the largest economic power in Africa, we want to capture and tap the vitality of the country's growth, and we want to discuss approaches of the country as a chair of ECOWAS. And in order to support effectively the Japanese businesses, we have newly installed the position of official responsible for regional economic affairs. First, where the economic growth potential is high and where there are relatively high number of challenges with regard to development of businesses, for Japanese businesses to make inroads into Africa in 5 countries and 6 official establishments. We have designated an official responsible for regional economic chair. Specifically, this will be in the embassies of South Africa, the UK, and India, and Turkey, and the consul generals of Dubai and Istanbul. As in my visit to Africa, I'd like to hear directly from the Japanese businesses on the ground. We want to have feedback, a broad-ranging feedback from the economic circles, and I hope to use this when I take leadership in managing future developments. This year marks milestone year of the 60th anniversary of Japan's accession to OECD. During my stay in France from the 2nd to the 3rd of May, I will be attending OECD Ministerial Council meeting where Japan is the chair to serve as the moderator, and I will also attend WTO informal ministerial meeting hosted by Australia. And with EU, we will also have EU-Japan high-level economic dialogue. In the international community, division and confrontation are deepening. OECD unites under common values, and its importance is growing against that backdrop. Based on the results as G7 presidency last year, Japan would like to lead discussion on various economic and social matters to maintain and strengthen open and free international order based on the rule of law. I also plan to have France-Japan Foreign Ministerial meeting with Foreign Minister Séjourné to exchange views on enhancing cooperation with France and regional affairs. Japan has built deep trust relationship with Sri Lanka and Nepal based on many years of development cooperation and people-to-people exchange. Through the visits, we will further enhance cooperation. In Sri Lanka, I will once again state that Japan is extending cooperation to Sri Lanka, which is undergoing debt restructuring, and will affirm cooperation regarding FOIP, WPS, disarmament, and non-proliferation. Visit to Nepal will be the first in 5 years by Japanese foreign minister towards
the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations in 2026 and towards the graduation of Nepal as LDC, we will confirm cooperation to enhance bilateral relations. This time, the underlying themes are economy, ocean, and connectivity. I will be visiting 3 countries in Africa, each with unique characteristics as leading country in the region, OECD, and 2 countries in South Asia, which is the nodal point connecting land and the sea, and would like to engage in diplomacy to serve as bridge between Global South and G7 and other like-minded countries.
Please raise your hand if you have a question, and when called upon, please proceed to the microphone and state your name and affiliation. Kyoto News, please. Hayashi-san, please. Thank you very much. Hayashi from Kyoto News. You talked about the visit this time, which will entail confirmation of various forms of cooperation in South Africa or South Asia. In these areas, China is strengthening its influence. And so on this score, what is the message which you'd like to communicate? And in your talks, what do you want to convey? If you could answer this question, please. Where division and confrontation is deepening in this today's international situation, the global south and the developing countries and emerging countries, which is becoming a major existence. So we want to strengthen coordination with these countries and to make these partners, I believe, would be very important in maintaining and strengthening international order, which is based on rule of law and which is free and open. Ever since I became minister, I have felt that there was trust and expectation from the global south, and there is this willingness of wanting to deepen relations with Japan in the visit this time, based on the trust we have built up so far. We'd like to talk about Japan and Africa and South Asia to prosper together and to realize FOIP, which is based on the rule of law, and also cooperation toward resolution of various global challenges, including WPS. I'd like to strongly convey this message, in particular at the OECD Ministerial, based on the moves of the Southeast Asian countries to try to join the OECD in the Indo-Pacific region, where Japan has played a leading role, and also outreach by the OECD in this area, particularly Southeast Asia. I want to strongly communicate the necessity of this based on this history. The relationship of trust with the developing countries is something that we have built up toward the future. With the Global South, we want to strengthen coordination even further. Thank you.
Next question, Moriguchi-san from Mainichi, please. I am Moriguchi from Mainichi. In the United States, budget was passed, which includes additional assistance to Ukraine. During the deliberations of that budget bill, there were several lawmakers who referred to the address by Prime Minister Kishida at the joint session of the Congress in endorsing the budget bill regarding the frozen state-owned asset of Russia. To allocate that to Ukrainian assistance was also included in the just passed budget bill in the U.S. And there is also idea of using the interest of the frozen asset to provide assistance to Ukraine. Do you think that this is going to be a viable option? As there's a report that this may be discussed in the G7 upcoming summit meetings. Regarding your first question, Russian aggression on Ukraine is an outrageous act that undermines the entire international order. In order to restore just and enduring peace in Ukraine as soon as possible, international community must remain united and need to promote strongly sanctions against Russia and Ukrainian assistance. Against this backdrop, on April the 24th, in the United States, a budget was passed including assistance to Ukraine. And based on this past budget, the government of the United States will be providing additional assistance to Ukraine, which the government of Japan welcomes very much. In the passage of this budget bill, in the deliberations at the Senate, I understand that several senators referred to the content of the address delivered by Prime Minister Kishida in the joint meetings of the Congress. In his speech, Prime Minister Kishida referred to the Russian aggression against Ukraine and appealed that the leadership of the United States is indispensable. I believe that that message was strongly conveyed to the U.S. lawmakers. On the part of Japanese government, we will continue to work together with the United States as a global partner. Regarding your second question, frozen assets of Russian state and usage thereof. On April the 24th, in the G7 summit statement, there will be a full discussion continuously amongst the relevant countries. As for the outlook of those discussions, I will refrain from making any prejudgment, but Japan will continue to maintain close collaboration with relevant countries, including G7, and would like to address the matter appropriately.
Kudo-san, Yomiuri Shimbun, please. Kudo, Yomiuri Shimbun. On the 26th, in the morning edition, Yomiuri Shimbun talked about a recommendation to deal with declining population, the creation of a new training employment program focusing on foreign human resources. That was in the recommendation, as well as the formulation of a long-term, medium to long-term national strategy with regard to foreign human resources. May I have your take on this, please? As is found in the recommendation, we are seeing the problem of the lack of labor becoming serious, and there's intensifying competition for human resources internationally. So when we look at this, we feel that Japan must become a country of choice for workers. From such a standpoint, for those wishing to come into the country with a certain level of skill, I feel that we should open doors even more than we have done in the past. And it's indispensable that we materialize an inclusive society with these people. On the part of the Foreign Ministry, we have had a ministerial conference on acceptance of foreign workers and inclusive society, and there was a roadmap which was drawn up for the realization of an inclusive society with the foreign workers. So based on this, we want to closely liaise with relevant ministries and agencies with our approaches. Specifically, firstly, through the Japan Foundation, to impart Japanese language education for foreigners before coming to Japan, and secondly, jointly co-sponsoring with the IOM an international forum for education enlightenment purposes, and thirdly, through cooperation with JICA, we want to create a framework where Japanese and foreigners both can take ownership in creating an inclusive society through such approaches. On the part of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we want to play an active and proactive role. Thank you.
Next question, Harakawa-san from Sankei, please. Harakawa from Sankei. From Kannon Temple in Tsushima Island in Nagasaki Prefecture, Buddhist statue was stolen, and final decision was granted by the Korean government's Korean Supreme Court that the rightful owner is Kannon Temple, but this has not been resolved yet. I raised the same question on January the 30th during the press conference. And Minister, you responded that Japan will continue to call upon the Korean government for early return of the Buddhist statue and take appropriate response in communication with relevant organizations. But according to people related to Kannon Temple, it seems that there has not been any contact from anywhere according to people related to Kannon Temple. And that's my question. Despite your response in your January press conference, has Ministry of Foreign Affairs not contacted Kannon Temple yet? And towards the return of the Buddhist statue, how will the ministry make efforts? And is there any progress towards return of the Buddhist statue? Regarding the statue that you've mentioned in your question, in October last year, final court decision was granted in Korea, and based on that, so that the statute will be returned to the owner, Kannon Temple, early. We have seized repeated opportunities to call upon Korean government to have the statute returned, and we have maintained the communication. The Korean government has made clear that the relevant agencies and organizations will determine the return procedures in accordance with relevant laws and regulations. For early return, the government of Japan will continue to call upon the government of Korea to return the statue, and we will also will be in communication with relevant parties, including Kannon Temple, to respond appropriately. And we would like to have ample sharing of information to respond to this, and will exert utmost efforts towards that direction.
Murakami-san, GG Press, please. GG Press, Murakami. I'd like to ask about an opinion survey. It's been 7 months since you become foreign minister, and during this time, according to our opinion survey that we've conducted, those responding that you should become a prime minister, you're appropriate for becoming prime minister, have doubled approximately. So there are high expectations of you as prime minister. What is your take on this? And is this related to your heart and soul efforts without being distracted? What is your feelings on this? I was elected in the year 2000, and ever since then, based on conviction, I have been concentrating on performing my responsibilities as a politician. And presently, as part of the cabinet, I'm making my best effort to support the Prime Minister, Mr. Kishida. Now, I'm engrossed in diplomacy at the moment, but the critical situation with regard to domestic politics, those are two sides of the same coin. For domestic politics to be stable is a very important element, diplomatic as well, and that is how I feel. Japan, which is bright and affluent and full of potential to be respected, and Japan, which is needed. Such a Japan is something that I'd like to pass on to the future generations. So I am devoting heart and soul to the responsibility of a foreign minister, which is the role given to me now.
Next question, Hata-san from Yomiuri, please. I am Hata from Yomiuri. In January 2021, in Italy, in Verona, a Japanese woman's body was found. Initially, Italian police considered this a suicide and did not make any investigations. But the parents in Japan argued that this was a murder, and in March, the court gave order to open investigation to Italy. I do not know whether there were any communications between the authorities of the two countries, but has the government approached Italy on this case? First of all, to the victim and the families of the victim, I would like to express my deepest condolences. Since the onset of this incident, Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been in communication with the family and has provided necessary support, including the transfer of the body to Japan. On April the 3rd, Verona court in Italy has decided that there should be re-investigation as a criminal case. That is my understanding. Based on the requests of the families, we would like to continue to provide as much support as possible. The press conference is adjourned. Thank you.